Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're jumping into something really complex. It starts seemingly small, a street crime in Venice.
Right. But it spirals pretty quickly.
Yeah, it ends up involving, millions in diamonds, arms dealing, and even high-level government cover-ups. It's quite a journey.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it all kicks off in this almost idyllic setting, which makes the start even more jarring. We're talking about Campo Santo Stefano in Venice.
During the Christmas market, right?
Yeah.
So picture that scene.
Exactly. You've got the lights, stalls everywhere, the smell of roasted chestnuts, tourists milling about, distracted.
A real festive buzz,
Yeah.
and then just shattered. A very swift, very professional execution.
And the victim, he was an African street vendor. They're often called a vucumpra in Italy.
Could you explain that term a bit for listeners who might not know it?
Sure. So vucumpra, it's generally used for immigrant street vendors and selling, counterfeit bags, Gucci, Missoni fakes, that sort of thing. They're usually undocumented, marginalized.
Kind of invisible, socially speaking.
Yeah, largely invisible, both to the public and often to the authorities. They're just there on the fringes.
And that invisibility, that's exactly why the way he was killed stood out so much, wasn't it?
Absolutely. This wasn't just a mugging that went bad. It was methodical. 2 men, 5 shots, point blank.
And the weapons had silencers, nuclear ones.
Right, which produced this very distinct sound described as a sort of dull thwack, thwack, thwack. Super quiet, really. Then they just melted back into the crowd. Gone.
And the immediate reaction, it was pretty telling, wasn't it? The indifference.
Devastatingly so. The first officers on the scene were apparently baffled by how professional it looked, but the overall attitude was, it was summed up by that awful comment someone made.
Only a vucumpra.
Yeah. Just shocking dismissiveness.
And that attitude that he somehow didn't matter. That's really the core puzzle here, isn't it? Because you have this incredibly professional hit, clearly expensive, targeted at someone society deems insignificant.
Precisely. Why hire pros, serious operators, to take out a guy selling fake handbags? It just doesn't add up.
So the investigator, Brunetti, he immediately suspects something bigger.
Oh, yeah. He described it as having this stamp of the professional all over it.
Yeah.
That points away from street crime and towards something geopolitical almost.
Okay, so let's dig into the scene a bit more. There were eyewitnesses, even though things were chaotic. The best one was an American tourist.
That's right, Dr. Martha Crowley. And her description of the sound, it was strangely mundane, which actually makes it more believable.
She didn't say bang, bang.
No, nothing like that. She said it sounded like fit, 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 like the noise a coffee machine nozzle makes when it lets off steam.
Huh. That's oddly specific. And chilling. It tells you how effective those silencers must have been.
Totally. Masking murder in plain sight, basically.
And she saw one of the killers. What did she notice about him?
She described him as very tall. He was wearing an overcoat and an old-fashioned hat. She said it reminded her of movies from the 30s or 40s.
So maybe a disguise. Or just someone trying, maybe awkwardly, to blend in.
Could be either. Maybe just clothes meant to obscure features in a European winter setting.
But there was one detail about him that really jumped out, wasn't there? Something about his hands.
Yeah, that was the really bizarre part. She said his hands were really large and hairy, almost like a monkey's.
Wow. That's a detail you don't forget, the kind of thing an eyewitness catches in shock.
Exactly. An accidental, indelible image.
But despite having this witness, the initial police work was not great.
Understatement. The officer in charge, Alvarez, he was apparently overwhelmed, failed to get names from anyone who saw anything.
So potential witnesses just vanished.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
A major fumble right at the start. And complicating things further, the victim had no ID on him. No papers, as they said, made identifying him officially almost impossible.
Again, that underlying indifference seems to creep in.
It does. But the autopsy findings quickly push back against the idea this is just random street violence.
What did the doctor, Rosardi, find?
He noted 5 bullet holes in the guy's parka. And crucially, 3 of them were clustered right near the heart.
Okay, so not random shots in a struggle. This was targeted. Precise.
Absolutely. As Rosardi apparently noted, they really wanted to kill him. Pure execution.
Which brings us to the victim's home. You'd expect very little, right, based on his apparent life.
Yeah, you'd think maybe some clothes, basic necessities. But the police track him to this freezing attic apartment in Castello. Really sparse, unheated, just a single bare bulb for light.
Grim. And they start searching for ID, presumably?
Right. Looking through his few belongings, and then they'd check a box of Sal Grosso. Coarse cooking salt. Common stuff in Italy.
And inside wasn't salt.
Not just salt, hidden inside. 164 uncut gem-quality diamonds.
Wow. Okay, so the narrative just completely flips.
Instantly. They bring in an expert, Claudio Stein, to look at them. He confirms their high quality, and he even suggests a likely origin, a specific African source. He called it pipe to pipe.
Meaning from a specific mine or region?
Yeah, implying a very direct, maybe illicit sourcing route. And the value. Stein estimated they could be worth up to 6 million euros.
6 million euros hidden in a box of salt by a guy selling fake bags.
Exactly. Suddenly he's not an insignificant vendor. He's a courier, maybe a dealer, carrying immense value.
But then the autopsy reveals something even darker, doesn't it? Beyond the gunshots.
Yes. There was evidence of recent severe trauma. Marks on his abdomen indicating he'd been tortured shortly before his death.
Tortured? Why? Over the diamonds.
Possibly. But the really crucial detail was the scar left by the torture. It had a very specific, unique geometric pattern.
Not just random marks then, a symbol.
Precisely. It's called a callage. Apparently it means something like the sign of life. And incredibly, that same pattern was found carved on a broken wooden head in his room.
What was the wooden head?
Identified as a diviner's power stick. And then Professor Winter, an expert, links that specific callage symbol directly to the Chokwe tribe.
The Chokwe tribe. Where are they from?
Primarily Angola and parts of western Congo. Resource-rich areas, often caught up in conflict.
Okay, so let's connect the dots. We have a man, likely Chokwe, carrying 6 million euros in diamonds, recently tortured, executed professionally in Venice. What does that start to suggest? Especially the tribal link and the money.
It changes everything. For Brunetti, the investigator, and his father-in-law, Count Filiere, who apparently had some high-level connections, it points away from simple diamond smuggling for profit.
Because the Chokwe have been involved in insurgency.
Yeah.
Against the Angolan government.
Exactly. The Lunda and Chokwe groups have historically fought the central government. So the logical conclusion they reached was startling.
The money wasn't for him, it was for weapons.
That's the theory. Arms dealing. 6 million euros to buy weapons for the insurgents fighting the internationally recognized Angolan regime.
And there was evidence he was trying to sell the diamonds quickly.
Yeah, the timeline fits. He was apparently in Antwerp just 2 days before he was killed in Venice, trying to shift a large quantity of diamonds. He needed the cash urgently, likely for that arms purchase.
So a murder in Venice is suddenly linked to funding a civil war in Africa. That's huge.
And that's exactly when the political walls start closing in. Fast.
The official pressure starts coming down from above.
Immediately. Brunetti's boss, Vice Questor Pata, basically orders him off the case. Just shut it down.
What reason did he give?
He tried to push this narrative that it was just some complicated gang feud. You know, too messy, best to close the books quickly. Convenient.
But Brunetti and his team knew better by then, and they found proof of interference, didn't they? Actual sabotage.
Oh, yeah. Signorina Elettra, she's the secretary, but also apparently a bit of a whiz with computers and navigating the bureaucracy.
Okay.
She discovered that key files on the police computer system related to this murder had been deleted. Specifically, the autopsy report and the initial crime scene report.
Deleted?
By who? Not just anyone. This was sophisticated stuff. The intrusion was traced back to Rome, to the Ministry of the Interior, and, incredibly, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs.
Wait, the Foreign Ministry? Why would they care about a murdered street vendor and some diamonds, unless...
Unless the diamonds, or rather what they were intended for, threatened their interests. Why else would they be deleting police files in Venice's?
So while Brunetti's dealing with this internal sabotage, the government cooks up a public resolution.
Exactly. A very loud, very dramatic finale is staged for the media.
The raid near Padova, in Viganza.
That's the one. The Carabinieri conduct this big raid, shoot 2 men dead, and immediately the official story drops. These guys were terrorists.
Terrorists, with links to what?
Conveniently links to targeting U.S. interests, specifically the American base nearby in Vicenza. It wraps everything up neatly. Dead terrorists, threat neutralized, case closed.
A perfect state-sanctioned narrative covers everything up.
Completely. But the real reason for the ministry interference, for the execution in Venice, for the whole cover-up, it wasn't in the dramatic headlines.
Where was it?
It was buried in the business pages. A small article in Il Sole 24 Ore, the financial newspaper.
And what did it say?
It reported that a major Italian consortium had just signed a massive deal, a 10-year exclusive contract for mineral rights in Angola.
Okay, and the connection?
The article specifically mentioned that the deal was secured thanks to the assistance to and close ties with the legitimate government of Angola, assistance provided by the Italian Foreign Ministry.
Ah, so the foreign ministry helped broker a huge mineral deal with the Angolan government.
And Arvu Kumpra was trying to raise 6 million euros to buy weapons for the rebels fighting that same government.
His diamond money would have directly threatened the stability needed for that Italian mineral contract.
Precisely. The execution wasn't about stolen diamonds or gang wars. It was a political assassination, likely sanctioned at a high level to protect huge Italian business interests in Angola.
Which explains why the foreign ministry was deleting files.
And why Pata got the order from Rome to shut the investigation down. He confirms it, later case closed, all documents sent straight to the Ministry of the Interior. Ministerial orders. End of story.
And the victim's body.
Quickly cremated. No chance of later exhumation, re-examination, nothing. Just like the files, the physical evidence was erased. Permanently.
A total system win, then. The official story sticks terrorists, the mineral deal is safe, and the truth is just gone.
Almost. There's still the small matter of the 6 million euros in diamonds. Technically, they belong to the state now, seized assets.
Destined to just disappear back into the same system that killed their owner.
That seemed to be the path. But Brunetti couldn't let that happen.
What did he do?
He made a choice, a really risky one. He took the diamonds off the books completely unofficially and gave them to someone he trusted. Don Elvis.
The former priest who helps refugees?
That's him. Brunetti basically bypassed the entire corrupt system. It was an illegal act, technically misappropriation of state property, but...
Yeah. But morally, he felt it was the only way to ensure the money might actually help people in need, rather than lining the pockets of those involved in the murder.
Exactly. A kind of desperate humanitarian gesture against overwhelming political cynicism.
So we started with this puzzle, a professional hit on an invisible man. And we end up here with state-sanctioned murder tied to international resource deals.
And that Chokwe sign of life found on a man marked for death by the state. It's incredibly poignant.
It really brings it home. This whole deep dive shows how easily the truth can be buried, especially when powerful interests are at stake.
Right. And when the people committing the crime are the same ones controlling the story, the official narrative, like terrorists, becomes the accepted reality. It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
Yeah.
How do you, listening now, sift through the noise? How do you tell the difference between the messy, uncomfortable facts like hairy hands or the sound of a coffee machine and the neat, convenient story being sold to you?
That's the challenge, isn't it? Always questioning the narrative, especially the fashionable ones.